are you?
I'm doing good. Ready
Good.
for our podcast today.
Yes. So we want to introduce Carl Jung to our listeners. If you have taken any basic psychology coursework or um, research psychology, Carl Jung is one of our founding fathers in psychology. And Carl Jung is deep. So today we will be talking about Jungian archetypes. And this is not my specialty. I'm not an expert in Carl Jung.
Nor
So
am I. Neither of us are. Yeah.
right.
So this is just two therapists having a conversation about Carl Jung. We're not like one of his prodigies by any means.
Would have loved to have been.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would be very cool.
And these are things that probably that most people are aware of, but they're not aware of.
Yes. As confusing as that sounds, I agree. Like
Mm-hmm.
once we start talking about it, I think it'll sound familiar to people, but it's not something they think about day to day.
No.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we're going to talk about what are archetypes and the basic meaning of what an archetype is. And can you hear me okay?
Well, yeah, crystal clear on my end.
Nice. So, what is an archetype? And this is the basic building blocks of stories that all writers, mythology, religion, they come from this collective unconsciousness that we all kind of resonate with. And he says that he suggested that this is already inside of us, into our human DNA and our psyche.
Yeah, that it's like inherited. Right.
Yes, shared by all people.
Yeah.
And we have the hero, the damsel in distress, the magician, the old wise man, centennial, they call him.
Explorer, innocent, rebel.
Yeah.
I think there's 12 total.
Yes, there are 12 total. Miss Rachel, would you like me to pull that up on the presentation, or you want to
Sure. Go
camp
ahead.
here for a minute? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share screen with you guys. And I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint. So here's Mr. Carl Jung. And can you see that?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here is our PowerPoint with that. And
so there's 12 archetypes total, and they're kind of split into 4 groups of 3. And so the innocent, the sage, and the explorer are all exploring spirituality. The rebel, the magician, and the hero are all trying to leave a legacy. The everyman, the lover, and the jester are pursuing connection. And the creator, the ruler, and the caregiver are trying to provide structure.
I was trying to do the slideshow. I forgot. There it is. Okay. There we go. Is that better?
I think it's a little bit better. Yes. There's
Right.
not the functions and stuff at the top. It's just the screen, which is good. Thanks, Linda.
Excellent.
Yeah. So do we want to go through these a
Sure.
little bit? All right. So we'll start with the 3 that are exploring spirituality: the innocent, the sage, and the explorer, right? So innocent is seeking safety at all costs. It wants happiness. People see it as very endearing. There's this like desire to be free from harm and wrongdoing, right? And so that's the positive. And all of these have like positive and negative. They're kind of dual, right? So the negative would be, you know, this you're trying to live a life without hardship. So you can be kind of naive. You can tend to want to avoid responsibility, right? You're very afraid of abandonment. You can be blind to your own weaknesses, which could lead to entitlement if you stay unchecked, right? So if you know if the innocent is like this childlike persona tends to be your archetype, those are kind of what you're trying to balance. The sage is like the wise one. It wants to understand and seek truth. It values wisdom and intelligence, but they can become so obsessed with you know, analyzing things that can get in the way of their relationships, right? That makes me think of like the shows where there's like a detective that just gets so obsessed with trying to solve a case that, you know, its family falls to shambles and all that kind of stuff.
I like that example.
Yeah, and then the explorer, that's our like inner adventurer. You want freedom, you're looking for your true self, you want to understand the world and your place in it. You value autonomy and ambition, being true to yourself, right? The explorer is like a force to be reckoned with. But it could lead you down a path of self destruction. It could alienate you from relationships because you're always in search of trying to improve your life, right? And be an individual that you may not realize what you already have, right? You might take things for granted in your need to do be yourself. You might lose yourself instead.
That's true. You can
Yeah,
go too far with that exploring, huh?
right. Yeah. So then we've got those that want to leave a legacy, the rebel, right? You're seeking radical change. You're trying to break all the rules, destroy all the social norms, create change, right? You're kind of like embodying rage and anger in order to break down what's no longer serving you or society. But you can become really afraid of losing everything, right? That's important to you, and you got to find balance. Got to learn to let go of some of that anger and realize, you know, that the destructiveness is not just for being destructive and being disagreeable, but it's to build better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just tell me when you want me to talk about. I'm
Go
like,
ahead. Yeah, you want to talk about the magician and the hero?
oh, yes. Thank you, Rachel. The hero is, on the mission to make the world a better place. The movie that always shows up for me with a hero is Batman. And I love Batman. Um, he wants Gotham to be crime free, and he's working so hard to accomplish that. So, and he has to come in contact with his own fear and loss of his parents and the fear of, being in the darkness with the bats. So
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's pretty cool, the way he has to manage all of those things and still, do something good out of what happened bad to him. I like that hero story. And some people really kind of resonate. They always like to, be the police officer or the
Mm-hmm.
fire rescue. They have a hero part of themselves, and they may not know that until they start looking at, oh, I am driven, or I move towards being a helper and rescuing people. And that's
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like this is the part of us that helps us like set and achieve goals. The hero
yeah,
part. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Who doesn't want to be the hero in their own story?
Right? Yeah. What about the magician?
Thank you for telling me which ones you did, because I was sitting there like present but
We're
listening.
good. Yeah. Well, there's 12. It's hard to keep track, right?
Yeah. And then there's ones underlying these.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's a lot. So the magician, they mentioned the brands Apple, Disney. I don't know what that last one was. Creating like surreal experiences. And have you ever been to a magician, Rachel? Or
No, but when you say Disney, I'm like making dreams come true, like, wow,
yeah, they're pulling that rabbit out of the hat, and it's like, how did that happen? Um,
fantasy. Yeah.
just so fun and surreal. And it
Yeah.
takes you to that inner child part of yourself. You're like, oh, there is an Easter bunny. Hmm.
Yes. In a more like present day context, I think of like the really inspirational public speakers that go all over the world and give talks. Like, they're not doing the traditional form of magic, but they're helping transform people, right,
Mm,
into better versions of themselves. Like, that to
yeah.
me is a modern day magic.
I'm thinking Brene Brown and Tony Robbins.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Tony Robbins does that too. It's Tony, right? Robbins?
I think so. Yes. Yeah, they help enlighten like people,
Yes.
inspire. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. What's our next one?
How about the everyman? He's a pursuer of connection. The everyman.
Yeah. So in the every man, I think that's, everyone can resonate with the guy that goes to the Home Depot on a Saturday morning, gets his tools out and starts building a little shed. So it's the every man dude, and just the down to earth kind of guy that if you needed a hammer, he's got it to borrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humble,
Just earthy.
kind. Yeah.
And
About the lover.
yeah. Yes, the lover. They are just so passionate, and they're just emulate this energy that I'm thinking Marilyn Monroe,
Oh, yeah.
Kim Kardashian. I think they create
Mhm.
just beauty and love and passion, and they just symbolize that kind of energy, and you feel it. Like, and it says Victoria's Secret, Chanel.
Mhm.
I guess the ice cream is sort of sexy. Hagen.
Haagen-Dazs.
Is it sexy?
That's funny. Maybe
Maybe
their commercials are. I don't know. I haven't seen one.
I bet they are. I think I
Yeah.
have. Smooth chocolate, just the lover.
Yeah. Yeah. Wanting love and passion and connection,
Romance, all that
romance. Yeah.
jazz.
Yeah. What
And
about the jester?
oh, yes. This person brings a lot of joy to the world, and they like a little bit of mischief. And Old Spice, that's true. Old Spice did do some commercials where the guy's just being ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Is
he's
he?
got his towel on,
Yeah, he's like on that horse or something.
riding a horse for no reason.
Yeah, just funny,
Just
lighthearted.
jovial. Who's the guy in The Office that also played in Guardians of the Galaxy, the main character? He's a
Mm,
jester.
I can picture him, but I'm bad about names when it comes to actors and actresses. But I know who you're talking
It'll
about.
come to us.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey is a jester.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, any like comedian type. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to put a smile on your face. Just want to
Yes, the
make
movie.
the room laugh.
Yes, you're right, Rachel. What about the movie Dumb and Dumber? Did you see that?
Yes. Perfect example of jester. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Just
It's
silly.
slapstick. It's banal humor. Just banal's the correct word for making fun of
Yeah.
bodily functions, right?
Okay. I didn't know. That's a new one for me. I was like, sure. Yeah. I don't know.
So hope our
Yeah.
audience don't mind if I don't have the correct wording.
I think it's right. It sounds right. Yeah.
And then
It's
Rachel, yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
what were you going to say?
No, I'm gonna be polite. I'm talking
Oh,
to.
no, you're good. I was going to go over the last three real quick. These ones provide structure. The creator wants to, put their vision into form, values imagination, always looking for the next new project. The ruler, right? We think of like a king or queen. They want control. They want to create a prosperous family or community. They create order out of chaos. And then the caregiver lives to serve. They want to help and protect others. You think of like a mother figure, very nurturing, right? Very compassionate. Yeah. So that's all 12.
Yeah. And Rachel and I both probably did our archetype test today. I think she did hers too.
I did. Yeah.
And would you like to share your archetype, Rachel? I don't mind sharing mine.
Yeah. I don't mind sharing mine. So my strongest was the creator, which I think fits. I like to come up with creative solutions to problems. I like to decorate my house. That's a creativity outlet for me. I like to make things. So I thought that was fitting.
Yeah. So did it kind of reinforce what you already knew about yourself, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What about
So
you?
yeah, mine came up the innocent child, the joker, the hero, and the father.
Okay.
So I was surprised. I thought I'd be the sage, which I guess that's the father, right? Old wise man.
That might be the
Yeah.
same thing. They got some different names for some of these. So if you go like looking up more information, it might be confusing because it confused me.
It confused me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the hero resonates with me. The joker, I do like having good fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The innocent, I think after the loss of my dog, I think I do have a
Mm,
sense of childlike, behavior when it comes to loss and that sadness that I felt. I was like, wow, I really do like long for a magical Peter Pan land where all the animals live forever. I'm like, I just want to,
yes. Right. Like who's not seeking safety and happiness? I think we all are to
yeah.
some degree. Yeah.
So
Well,
that's,
and
yeah.
before starting the podcast, Linda and I, like, we were having this discussion, and these archetypes reminded us of internal family systems, IFS, that we've done a podcast on. And you and I both agreed. I think we all have all 12 of these, right? And different percentages.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on maybe like what we're facing or what we're going through in life, one of these might become, stronger in that moment.
Well stated. Yeah. The part of self that he talks about in the internal family systems, the protector parts, I see those as the hero in the sense that they're showing
Yeah.
up for you when times are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Carl Jung also talks about like the personality and the shadow, which you can talk about a little. And I think, some of these, as we went through and gave the description, people listening might be like, oh, yeah, like I could see myself in, these three or four. That might be part of your personality, right? That you want to accept. And then the ones that maybe you were a little like, I don't know about that one, that maybe that's part of your shadow that you aren't so willing to accept. So would you like to explain the difference between those two?
Would love to.
Thanks.
Slide came up. Would you like me to review that for folks? Would that be helpful and part of the archetype?
Yes. Yeah,
Nice.
go for it.
So the personal unconscious was his term for the individual. So on an individual level, you have some things happening, but then there's a collective experience that you have too as well. We all share the need for a hero at times, and we all feel like we're the victim at some times, and that's the collective unconscious.
That we can see worldwide.
Yes.
You know, like you can go to remote parts of the world that have not experienced European influence. You know, they still live very rustically, you know, and they still have these stories that they pass down from generation to generation, you know, with a hero or a villain. Does that make sense?
That makes great sense. And most religion has, you know, the hero, the victim, the trickster, which in my religion that would be Satan. He's the trickster. Oh, here's some things. You want to come over here? I've got it all. This is real
so tempting.
It's a little shiny thing, and you know, you're like, oh, that shiny thing looks pretty over there. Yeah. And then you've got, you know, your own shadow side that's like, oh, I like to understand that darkness in life. But then there's, you know, that part of yourself that you're like, well, I really want to be good and pure and do good things. So I'm going to look to a hero for modeling to me how to be. And in my religion, that would be Christ. So emulating that. Yeah, so I'm going to scroll down, and here's a great YouTube video. If folks like to click on that, they can. So the shadow is that part of the self. In Freudian, it was, you know, the aggressive part, the reproductive and the libido part of self. With Jung, he's saying that the dark side is the opposite of yourself. Like, if naturally Rachel's an introvert, she would be real social and go out and do an extroverted thing. And that would that feel comfortable for Rachel?
Yeah, probably not as much. Right? Is it like an alter ego? Is that kind of what you're talking about? The shadow?
The shadow
The
is like
darker side?
You're right. In Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That's what I was just thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a dentist by day, and then at night he's taking bodies out.
Yeah.
So he's got a real helpful part of himself, but then he's got the total reverse of hurting people. So it's kind of like, whoa, the duality of that, and making sense of that inside yourself and how that might show up.
Yeah. Dark part of us that makes us human. We all have it. You know, like if someone's really rude and disrespectful to me, my shadow part is going to just pop up in my head and be like, I want to punch you in the face right now. I'm not going to do that. Right. Because that's not who I am. Right. But I'm putting stuff together. I'm like, oh, yeah, my shadow wants to be violent sometimes.
Yeah. And Jordan Peterson says it so well. Some folks like him, some folks don't. I'm just saying his quote about being capable of being a monster and taming that monster part of yourself in the day to day. But you got to be capable of being a monster if necessary. So if someone attacks you or hurts your husband, you're going to show up. That shadow needs to show up in those instances.
Yeah. And
learning how to tame that shadow part of yourself without, I don't know, like in my religion, they would always say they're too heavenly minded to be any earthly good. They're all super ego, the angel, that archetype, pure to the, you know, so pure, so good. And I've met folks that just seem to be that innocent. And I'm like, wow, that's remarkable. But I don't know if they're integrating that part of themselves.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking of?
What?
Star Wars. They
Yes.
say everyone has a light side and a dark side, and you've got to be aware of the dark side so that it doesn't take over you. You can't ignore it,
Mm-hmm. What happened to Anakin? Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. He
Turns
let it
into
take
Darth Vader.
over him. Yeah.
That came out of his grief, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wasn't recognizing his shadow throughout the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
And
why it's good not to be too far.
yeah. And I've read like this analogy where it's like, if we're in a dark room, we can't see our shadow. It takes stepping into the light to know like what's behind us. So
Well stated.
I wish I could take credit for it, but I definitely read that somewhere. But yeah, I thought that was powerful. Yeah.
I like that. So the other part of the self that Carl Jung, this is what's within us. This is the personal psyche of the individual, not the collective unconscious. This is your personal unconscious. So the anima and the animus, that is that part of the soul that is the opposite of this, your born sex. So if I'm born a female, there's a part of me that's got the male soul inside.
Mhm.
And if I'm born a male, I have a part of me that has the female in my soul side of me, which
Yeah.
that's huge and deep. And
Yeah. That every human carries both feminine energy and masculine energy, regardless of what they identify with the most. Yeah.
um, the anima is for men would be the example that I found was the Virgin Mary being pure and female. And for women, the male archetype inside of us may be the strong female. I think of Wonder Woman as this, heroic, beautiful woman,
Mhm.
but she's powerful and she embodies the masculinity to be the hero in the movies. I love that in the comic books. Yeah.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like those traits or like personality characteristics that are stereotypically assigned to either male or female. The opposite of what you identify as, right, would have those traits. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. You're
Okay.
exactly right. Isn't he so deep?
Yes, very
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
oh, Rachel, I'm like, when I look through these images, I'm like, wow, this guy did some serious um research and study for his time. And remember, this is pre internet, Google search,
Yeah.
think of that.
Yeah, he was just traveling the world, talking to all kinds of different cultures and people and seeing what was similar as far as personality, regardless of, people's lived experience and where they grew up. So it's pretty incredible.
Oh, so good. And here's another image of what's happening within the human psyche. You've got the outer world, you've got the self there in the middle. And he's different from Freud because he didn't believe that we were led by the ego.
Mm,
Freud
yeah.
believes that that's the center. Um, and then there's that, there's the ego out there outside the circle. So Jung's different in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't
I've
know what's
seen it.
better.
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry, Rachel. Go ahead. I can't see you as well.
No, it's all right. I'm finish what you were saying. I'm intrigued.
Well, yeah, the question would be, would you think being self-led is better than being ego-led?
I would.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because if you're embodying self, you're embodying all your parts of your human psyche, whereas the ego is just, mostly focused on what it wants.
Yeah. It's important to have an ego. It's important to be aware of it because that's where self-esteem comes from, our individuality, right? The fact that I matter as a human being. But we don't want to be ego-led because that is like egotistic, like that's the narcissist personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We want to have that balance for sure.
Yeah.
Please continue with your comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I've seen it, the image of an iceberg floating in the ocean where a lot of what we're talking about is underneath the surface, right? So the persona is kind of like the part of the iceberg that's floating above the water that everyone can see. That's kind of like the way you present yourself in public, your persona. And then underneath is the ego, the self, the shadow, the anima and animus that we just discussed. So there's so much going on below the surface that not everybody gets to see.
Yeah. All the more reason, Rachel, for folks to engage in self work, like to therapy. You could do some inner child work. You can pursue journaling and recognizing patterns in yourself.
Yeah.
Because to be self-actualized, meaning living up to your fullest potential and everything you do while you're here on earth, knowing your archetype will fulfill that purpose. If you're a hero, in what ways are you living up to being a hero? And if you're not, what would you like to do about that? Go back to
Yeah.
school? Do you want to learn a new skill? Go get certified in fire training? What would help you live up to that archetype that you identify with?
Yeah. Or how might the archetype you're identifying with be holding you back?
Ooh, I like that.
Right? Like if you're a hero, are you choosing your battles wisely or are you out there fighting every battle that comes up, wearing yourself out? Always seeing everything as win or lose.
Good point. Good point, Rachel. That's accurate. Because if in every situation you're trying to be the hero, it becomes a burden. You're burdening self, and that comes up to the internal family therapy systems model. You are managing way too much. You're trying to manage too much.
Exhausting is the word that comes to mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's true. That was a good reverse. I like what you said there. We didn't in the notes. I don't think we went into this part, so I will. You want to just skip that one?
Oh, yeah, we can. I feel like we've covered a lot. Let's let people digest all of this.
Yeah, we have covered a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is so neat. In my personality class that I'm teaching at Marshall, they love the Carl Jung stuff, and I'm like, you guys are deep. This is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one that really I think helps us understand ourselves and other people. And like you said, even books and movies. And it's like, oh, that's why I love that book so much. Or that's why I can't watch this movie enough times because I relate to this character and that's me. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And so, when you're watching a movie, if you notice that you and this character makes so much sense, write it down. Write down the traits of the character in the movie and say, yeah, I am helpful. I am caregiving. What do you notice? and
Mm.
how
A
might
good
you
journaling prompt. I like
good
that.
journaling prompt
Yeah.
for listeners. So I think we might add that little archetype test onto this podcast if Rachel has the
Yes.
strength
I'll
or
link it.
she
The
has the
memory.
wherewithal. She definitely has the wherewithal. She's super intelligent, and
Thanks.
I just appreciate you, Rachel, so much.
Oh, likewise. The feeling is mutual. Appreciate you too. Yeah.
Yeah, so we hope that you guys liked our little like surface level
Quick
review.
Cliff Notes overview of Carl Jung archetypes.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, and we hope to bring you more podcast.
Yeah, stay tuned. And we hope you enjoyed. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.